Om Hiranmaye Parikoshe Virajan Brahmanishkalam Tachubram Jyotisham Jyoti Tadyadatma Vidho Vidhu. Shining like burnished gold, highest and deepest, the core intelligence of living beings, partless and indivisible, ever pure and free of all taint, the essence in everything which all beings seek, either knowingly or unknowingly. There shines Brahman. It is that which the Guru teaches. It is that which the wise ones exult in. Om, peace, peace, peace. Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Gyanamurtim Dandvaititam Gaganasadrisham Tattvamashadi Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tan Namami. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We salute the leader of our souls, through whose grace our ignorance is dispelled, who is beyond good and bad, pleasure and pain, life and death, and all other pairs of opposites. We recognize that one is the only witness to the changing phenomena of this universe. May we, through that grace, go beyond darkness and delusion, and realize the truth in this very life. Om, peace, peace, peace. Om Satyena, Om Satyena labhyastapassa yesatma samyagyanena brahmacharena nityam antaha sharirehi jyotirmayo hi shubraha yam pashanti atayaha kshinadoshaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The Atman, the indivisible self within all living beings, is realized by knowledge, moderation, austerity, and veracity, all these constantly cultivated. When mental impurities dissolve due to this practice, then the seer beholds it, existing everywhere, even here, in this very mind and body. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. Welcome to all of you who have gathered here at the SRV Ashram in Portland, Oregon, in this summer, and the sessions on the Taittiriya Upanishad, which we started last week, as you remember. Welcome to the live streaming audience too, and salutations to all beings, salutations to the ancestors, salutations to the humans, salutations to the celestials, salutations to the gods and goddesses, salutations to the rishis and sages and saints and seers, and salutations to Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, God with form. Salutations to the formless Brahman. Thou art what is real, what is true, and what is beneficial. And all of that exists inside of this great self, this great Atman, which we are studying about every time we pick up a great Upanishad. In the last series of sessions that lasted several years, we studied and took apart the Svetasvatara Upanishad, one of the more recent Upanishads, and its teachings, which resulted in 30 or 40 of these visual charts, which you see me presenting from class to class, and which the live stream audience can also see flashed across the screen and study at the break when we leave them up for closer inspection. So all of that is involved in this great yoga called Jnana Yoga, which Swami Vivekananda called the swiftest way to realization in any given lifetime, There are other ways, no doubt, but even Sri Krishna in the Gita says that in order to purify the mind, one has to take to the best purifier in existence, and that's called knowledge. He's speaking particularly of the upper knowledge, which is called Paravidya, and not the Aparavidya, which the world right now is concentrating on in full, if not to the exclusion of the other, basically intellectual subjects and science and various subjects we learn in school. But what we're not getting in school and what we're not getting from our parental upbringing is the cure to all solutions. And, that's after the fact. Actually, no problems and no solutions at all whatsoever if you started off with the knowledge that is contained in the Vedanta. As Vivekananda has told us, my great secret to share with all of you is that all of religion is contained in the Vedanta, that is, in its three stages. The dualistic, which is rather like saying, I pray to your Father in heaven, and the qualified non-dualistic stage or step, which is like saying, I'm the vine and you're the branches, as Jesus said to his apostles. And then mainly the Advaitic stage, which is I and my Father are one, or in India we say Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, or I am Matma Brahma, this self is Brahman. Those kinds of declarations from the non-dual platform really cut to the chase, as we say, and also trim away all the superfluous vibrations of the mind. And when the mind is pure, then you'll find out your energy flows. And when your energy flows, you'll find out the body is perfectly healthy. So Vedanta starts from that holistic perspective that doesn't begin with the body and exercise and eating good food, but it begins with being born with a pure mind. A rare thing, you say, because we see it so seldom, but there's the ideal for all beings to follow. And therefore their energy, called prana, and their or life force, and their bodies move in accordance with their thoughts. Thought, word, and deed is all in accordance. And that's where we left off last Sunday with this chart that I'm displaying to you on your right here. We entered into that set of lessons, or that particular lesson with this few, I think it has 3 slokas in it. It's the first lesson that has more than one sloka, because each lesson is a sloka to begin this Upanishad. As a quick review last week for those of you who weren't here, and a review for those who were, we really started off by talking about the word, phonetics, and the deeper meaning of words, which Vedanta, Tantra, Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, all are firm believers in. They feel like phonetics and meter and pronunciation and alphabets, varnas and padas, letters, should all be taken and placed squarely in the atmosphere of philosophy. If you take them and place them in the atmosphere of intellectual studies only, then you get a certain kind of knowledge and a certain kind of satisfaction. But it could lead you astray even. You start to try and build a utopian society, which is of course an impossibility. As Vivekananda said, saying that this is a good world is like saying hot ice. And we hope that everyone will learn that really quick. If you do, then you're pretty much stepping up to the plate with Lord Buddha's 4 Noble Truths. The first one being there is suffering. If you can at least admit that this world is full of suffering, and that pleasure also is a kind of suffering after a while. As we were hearing from the Gospel of Ramakrishna this morning before the camera was turned on in our readings, then you can face off these dualities. What is what I just chanted. Dandvaititam gagana sadrisham tattvamashadi laksham. Dandvaititam, these pairs of opposites like life and death and good and bad and pleasure and pain. You can face off with those and transcend them. Get beyond the dualities into triputis, as we say, triple teachings, like the A, U, and M of Om, the word, like the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep state of human beings. You can begin to study that. First you have to know about it, that there is a way over or above or beyond dualities, which the world is caught in, this net of dualities. Krishna calls it dvandva mohena in the Gita. The deluding pairs of opposites. Moha means delusion. So dvandva mohena is a very good catchword for Arjuna when he's hearing these teachings of, because he's caught in this duality of war and peace. He wants peace, but he has to go to war. So there are many, many of these dualities which face the human being, not only on the battlefield of everyday life, but on the battlefield of strife between cultures and nations, even worlds, because most people don't know that the ancestors are within us, and the rishis are within us, our gurus are within us, the people who have passed have all gone within us. They think, oh, within us means, if they believe it at all, in some sort of hazy way they're within us. You see, oh, they're in my mind as a memory or something, or they're in my photograph book, you see, and I can open the pages and remember them. But they don't know that it's an actuality that they're within us, that there are other worlds within. A little 5-year-old boy asked me last night in satsang, what is this? What makes this world a world? Imagine coming from a 5-year-old boy, beginning to be raised in the Vedanta at a very young age, as I was just speaking of. And I said, what's within you makes this world a world? Because there are many other worlds within, and if you only believe in this outer world, then you only believe in the physical body, the physical world. But you must know that you have a subtle body and subtle worlds, as even Christ told his apostles, the kingdoms of heaven are within. And there's even a causal world. Causal world means the cause of everything. And we would align that with our deep sleep state. The kingdoms of heaven within right now are rather dreamlike to us, you see, so we align them with our dream state. Swapna, it's called. And Sri Ramakrishna was just saying that in the in the Gospel of Ramakrishna before we entered with the live streaming audience joined us, that there's swapna siddha, there's getting perfection in a dream. So if you can get perfection in a dream based on your experiences of the waking state, then you put the A and the U of Om together, and you're a master of A and U. That's phonetics, you see, that's letters, that's padas, that's varnas, alphabets. So you think in a secular science you're just learning things to make a living, you see, or you're just learning things to say, I know more than you do, you see, or more than my neighbor does. But that's just secular learning and has a very limited scope. But when you start mastering letters, what their true meaning is and what they signify, and actually dwell in them inside of yourself, then you're opening up these kingdoms of heaven within, which are all based upon letters, particles of words, and then particles of letters, matrikas, jnana matrikas, particles of intelligence. But here you are outside glomming on with a death grasp, you see, to the particle of the atom or molecule, a particle of matter, and it's taking you further and further out until finally you're going to have to say, oh, I guess Buddha is right, it's all empty. See, empty means, like Christ said, you can't build your house on shifting sand. Well, the atomic particle is shifting sand. You can't build your house there. Birds and nests, birds have nests and foxes have holes. Birds and foxes, they have a hard time building their nest there, you see, or their hole, digging their hole, because they also change and pass and become more birds and more foxes, and more cows and more camels that like to eat thorny bushes, as Sri Ramakrishna said. But the Son of Man has no place to lay his head there. He has to go to a more substantial particle, and that would be starting with the particle of the ancestors, which is inside of him. You would have to go from the atomic particle and move towards the atmic particle, from atomic to atmic, atomic, atmic, atmic, atomic, the involution, evolution, all based on an unchanging reality that is observing the whole process and all processes, that is the witness of all phenomena, as we just chanted. Sakshi Bhutam, the witness of all bhutas, or all worlds, all solid things. In other words, you're not those solid things, you're the witness of them, and they change and pass, but you don't. If you do change and pass, or you believe you change and pass, then you have become what they call that proverbial lost soul. See, you're lost out there in matter. and you haven't discovered the kingdom of the ancestors and the kingdom of the mind and the kingdom of your own intelligence, wisdom, jnanam, what to speak of the kingdom beyond all kingdoms, which is formless, a formless Brahman. Salutations to the Trinity, but salutations to the formless Brahman, because thou art what is real, what is true, and what is beneficial. To know that formless essence is to know the string running through the set of pearls, as Krishna says in the Gita. You know that, what holds everything together, and then you have no more doubt anymore. You make doubt doubt itself, you make fear afraid of itself, and you put death in its own grave. As my teacher, Swami Asheshanandaji Maharaj, used to say. So that's what we've been courting in the early part of the Taittiriya Upanishad. Prajna Upanishad we'll take up again sometime later. But the Taittiriya Upanishad starts with that, and then it moves quickly into its second and third lessons into sacred conjunctions, bringing the twos into the ones, see, together in oneness. Maha Samhitaha is how they put it in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Sacred conjunctions. And it begins to talk about the universe, about knowledge, about progeny, and about the self. The self meaning everything from your body to your true self. They include in those days as being a part of the Atman. They were very all-inclusive kind of thinkers, those ancient rishis. They didn't really say, oh, God is formless and not with form, or God has form and doesn't have formless. You see, Sri Ramakrishna used to tell a story about that, the blind man with the staff. He's going on pilgrimage. So he walks into the sacred temple. You find he makes it to Jagannath temple. He walks in there, you see, and he wants to know whether God is with form or beyond form. It'd probably be a question that's more on the mind of a blind person than a person with two eyes. So he wants to know, so he prays to the Lord, oh Lord, do you have form or are you formless? Then he sticks out his staff and moves it one way, and it bumps into the image. And he knows God has form. And he moves it the other way, nothing. Then he knows that God is formless. And he leaves the temple knowing the secret of the Lord, that God is with form, beyond form, and probably beyond both form and formlessness as concepts, too. God is all there is. Vasudeva Sarvam, as Krishna says in the Gita, all is the Lord. So these sacred conjunctions are what the Taittiriya Upanishad presents you right off the bat. We had a chart about them, a brand new chart we showed, and it showed all the different ingredients of a conjunction. See, like the conjunction of progeny would be mother as the first form and father as the secondary form, and then the procreation as the joining, and then the progeny as the result. See, so if you know that, you know how things come together and how they're conjoined. But what you haven't done upon that is meditated upon it. As I said last week at class, that many people are engaging in the art of conjunctions when they're getting into families and having children. But how many of them are meditating on it? How many couples sit and meditate like they do in India before they have children? See, they probably have to run for the meditation room after they have children because they're pulling their hair. You see, they need some peace. See? But you need to go to the meditation room before you have children, so you won't attract a rascally soul to yourself. See? You'll attract a peaceful soul, hopefully a dharmic soul. Best of all, maybe you'd even get the avatar as your own child. You see, baby Ram, baby Krishna, Uma, the Divine Mother born to King Himalaya. Maybe you'll get a very high soul coming into your family, which will cause peace, peace, peace to the whole neighborhood, to the whole city, maybe to the whole world. So have you meditated on the sacred conjunction of progeny? Or you just say, oh, I know, father comes together with mother, they do the sexual act, and there's a child produced. End of story. It's a very shallow way of thinking. So you know the Vedanta Dharma and India's various darshanas, they want to go deep into everything. They want to make everything a conscious act. Even their breathing has to be a conscious act. I think, oh, you go places and you learn breathing exercises. That all originated back in India. Even Buddhism starts you off in breathing exercises, and that Buddha originated in India. So, not to cast any aspersion on our Nepalese neighbors, because borders have now shifted. Nepal can now claim Buddha as theirs, I think. But it's all that same mass of land, you see, that was known as Bharta in the early days, the eternal land, where this eternal religion, Sanatana Dharma, sprang from. We're still studying it 8,000 years later in this room together, in a materialistic country called America, that professes to be free and would like to make all other nations free. But how deeply have they meditated on the conjunction of freedom with its posterior, anterior, and joining forces? See? Or are they divisive forces? War, strife, problem, suffering, causing of karma on innocent people, and so forth. So the meditation of a thing is very much involved in the sacred conjunction of a thing. You see, the conjunction of a thing is rather a qualified non-dualistic teaching. You'd have to say the thing was always one. You see. But you have drifted away from knowledge of oneness, so you have to do the act of conjoining. You have to go back to that meditation to assure yourself of the truth, that you know somewhere deep inside you. That's what I'm talking about. Do we really know that the ancestors are within us, the gods and goddesses are within us, the Trinity is even within us, our gurus, the avatars within us, or are we just sort of holding that as a sort of hazy idea? Some sort of surface or new agey kind of idea. See, if I wave a crystal or a peacock feather, then all of a sudden those things will become clear to me. No. You have to go into an Upanishad like the Taittiriya Upanishad and follow its instructions. Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Quickly approach the illumined teachers and learn from them. Why? Because as sharp as a razor's edge is the spiritual path, and very hard to tread. So say the wise. Vititasta jagrata prapya varani bodhata. You see, a beautiful Sanskrit sloka that Swami Vivekananda used to say in English here in England and America when he came in the late 1800s. So go deep into a teaching like that and contemplate its meaning and go beyond just the outer phonetics and grammar and so forth, pronunciation, and go into the inner meanings. So I've just given you a quick review of the first two lessons, first 2 or 3 lessons that we took in the Taittiriya Upanishad last weekend. Again, for the sake of those who may have missed it and are catching up. Now, as far as where we continue on before our break in this first half, we are in lesson 4. Those of you who are using the Swami Sarvananda's text, it's on page 41 where we came across that sloka about celibate students, hallowed wisdom, and large numbers of beings gathering together in sanghas. Go and learn from the illumined teachers and learn to walk that razor's edge path. So may fortune produce for me without delay and for all time, bringing ceaselessly and in an increasing measure food, drink, cloth of all kinds, and all throughout may celibate students of hallowed wisdom come to me. May blessings rest on this oblation. May they come to me from far off and from different directions. Hail, that is Jai. May we come in large numbers. Hail, may they be self-controlled and calm. Pretty much what I was talking about with sacred conjunctions. They're going on in the same vein. Do I want a bunch of rabble-rousers to come to me and want to learn the Vedanta? Or do I want calm, peaceful, self-controlled students to come who are ready? Well, it's rather a natural filter. In this day and age, people of all kinds come, but Vedanta, you don't find a lot of people rushing for the underground river. You see them rushing for the Waikiki Beach. You see, where I come from, it's all about pleasure in the sun, see, and so forth. But where are those students that are looking for the underground river of truth that flows eternally, and which only a few souls have the great boon to drink from? That even a drop of that amrit, that precious water of life. So, may celibate students come in all numbers. May they be self-controlled, calm, and peaceful. And that's where we left off last week on Sunday at noon, when we were talking about celibacy, brahmacharya, and what it means. And actually, we were just hearing from Sri Ramakrishna the rules for a sannyasin around it, and the rules for a householder and how they differ. Most of those beings that are coming to Vedanta in America, of course, are householders. A few vanaprasthas, as we call them, but not too many sannyasins here in the West, because it's not in our culture, and not generations of practicing renunciation are not here in America, and they're not really there much in Europe. You have a few monasteries started by the Franciscans and the Dominicans and so forth, where people can practice monastic life in Europe, but hasn't really caught on in America in its short life. So that's why we must go to the wisdom traditions of the East, and why we must find gurus that teach wisdom traditions, and get that transmission of jnanam from them to clear our minds, so that we can love truly and accurately that which is true, which is beneficial, and all the divine qualities that are cited in the Upanishad as we chant. So we stopped there looking at the chart here on these 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. What's that number? That's the Pancha karana process. 5. You have 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 elements you're playing in. You have 5 senses. You have 5 types of prana, life force, flowing through your body. You have 5 different kinds of space inside of you: the bhutakasha, the pranakasha, the chitakasha, the jnanakasha, and the chiddakasha. Those are those worlds inside of you, divided into 5. And there are 5 great spiritual rules, and there are 5 observances and 5 practices in yoga, and so forth and so on. You have 5 elements and 5 senses in dream state tonight too, the subtle elements and the subtle senses. So this is a reminder to you, when you're born in the body, of how everything came into being through sets of 5s. It's one of the oldest paths in the world. It's an ancient path, might have become a little overgrown, but when you hear it again, all of a sudden you think how marvelous that I can just account for everything if I know the number 5. So what to speak of letters, numbers are pretty important too, if you go into their deeper meaning and contemplate them, as the Upanishad wants you to do. Meditate on all of these conjunctions and come to know the divine philosophy of eternal life. So in this way, we see that these 5s here in yoga are also there. There are also 5 great impediments, as you might remember, 5 kleshas. The Buddhists call it kilesha. But they're basically things like attachment, aversion, egotism, ignorance, and clinging to life or fear of death are the 5 great kleshas, or impediments to spiritual life. Many other sets of 5s too around. So we come to note those. And if we note them here in accordance with this, which is lesson 4 in the Taittiriya Upanishad, which is all a part of the first pada or chapter. As you know, as you can see from this chart, which we've been showing you, I just keep it up here at the beginning of the early parts of the Upanishadic classes. You can see how the Upanishads number 108 and into which of the 4 Vedas they fall. And those ones that I've underlined there are the ones that are authoritative because Shankara commented on them, did his great commentaries on them in 700 AD, roughly. So they became more known to us. Well, the other 99 are very, very profound, as we've been studying a few of them. Now, these 5 yamas and niyamas. One of them is brahmacharya, and it's mentioned here. This rishi of the Taittiriya Upanishad wants celibate students to come to him. It's not really, in India, it's really, and in America in the 1950s when I was born, it wasn't really any big thing. Most people were celibate. Most young people were celibate. That's the way you were raised, and you concentrated on your studies. That's pretty much what they've done in India all along. It's just been a natural order of things to be celibate until you married. And in that ethical and moral way, which becomes the Dharma in India, then people gather strength from their early life. They have a lot of power young, you might know it. Doesn't have quite as much energy when you're older. It begins to leak out of vessels with holes in it, as Vedavyas says. Or Sri Ramakrishna said, you have to keep a honeycomb in a jar, because it'll leak out of the comb, see, so you can still contain it. So in the natural process of old age, decay, and death, the prana begins to leak out of this body and senses. So keep that jar of spiritual discipline around it and collect it for another lifetime, if you will. So this is part of the teaching, is that when you're young, not only are you just putting your eye to your studies, but you're actually storing up a great power. And if your society is full of rishis or yogis, then your parents will probably take you down the street, say, take this child, please. And the child would come with firewood, meaning I want to learn the spiritual art. While I'm learning my secular studies, please teach me the spiritual life. And the guru would bring them in the house, and he would help the wife of the guru and so forth, and then the student would learn every day, sit for hours like this, learning these teachings from the guru. And those were mostly householder gurus. Maybe there was an ashram or a monastery nearby, and that could be taken advantage of. Whatever the case may be, the youth stored up this power, learned how to eat food, because you see first it says, ceaselessly may fortune produce for me ceaselessly, in an increasing measure, food, drink, and cloth. So this is called abhyudaya. It's one of the great Vedic ideals that everyone must have material well-being. Everyone. But where does it lead to? A pleasurable existence? It doesn't lead down the Bhoga Marga, the path of enjoyment, like the West is going. It should lead to the Jnana Marga. That's called Nishrayasa. Abhyudaya, Nishrayasa. The two great twin ideals of ancient India were material well-being for everyone, and then renouncing it all at the end, because it's unreal. You don't want to take it with you. In fact, you can't take it with you, is what they say. So you want to give it away, to your children. Maybe your children are worthy of it. In that case, you see, Sri Ramakrishna said in this day and age, the children are evil. They're waiting for the parents to die, you see, so they can get the money and the lands. You don't know how many times, even amongst my own students, I'm hearing about evil offspring taking wealth and land away from parents before they're even drawn their last breath. How they're devious, you see, and calculating, uncaring. So that idea of having worthy children to pass this on to, and then you bow out, you see, of the picture, and you meditate on the Lord in the last years of your life. Of course, ideally you should have been doing that all your life. But if you were following this rule of abhyudaya, then you would have been doing that, you see. Then fortune would be producing. Who is fortune? Mother Lakshmi, you see. Mother Lakshmi would be giving you everything you needed all through your life. You wouldn't have to pray for it or work for it or go looking for it. Sri Krishna says that 4 kinds of beings worship me, and one of them is the one seeking wealth. So Krishna, Lakshmi, Narayani will provide that wealth for a person who's seeking properly. Everything will just come to them. It's not trying to amass it, you understand, you see. Not like trying to amass wealth. It's trying to bring it together. And this chart, really 4 or 5 of these is all about wealth. You realize that? The parigraha, non-giving of gifts, asteya, non-coveting of things, santosha, being content with what you have and not trying to get more, tapas and doing without things. I mean, basically, most of these yamas and niyamas are kind of pointing directly towards the control of this sensual appetites that want to amass things. You could say wealth and money, yes, but lands too, for the power of domination, for dominating over people. As if these things were real and you can take them with you, as we were just saying. I mean, there are even songs about it that you hear quite a lot in the tradition. Namaja panne kyun chordiya ramanam na panne kyun chordiya rama namaja panne kyun chordiya krodana chora chutana chora krodana chora chutana chora satavachane kyun chordiya rama namaja panne kyun chordiya rama nam japane kyun chordiya rama namaja panne kyun chordiya. So Kalas, this beautiful devotee of Sri Ram, sings, "Tell me, O mind, why have you given up uttering the holy name of Ram and concentrating on his lotus feet? You should be renouncing your anger, your deceit, and your dishonesty, but instead you've sacrificed your integrity, and you're now seeking wealth and amassing wealth." And he goes on to sing here, Jute jagame dilal chatara asara tane kyun chordiya. I mean, you flatter the millionaire, but you forget to praise Sri Ram. Though Ram is the owner of the entire universe, the millionaire just has a little tiny bit, you see. So the teachings go on, even in song form, in what's called a bhajan or a stotram. The West has become rather fascinated and obsessed with kirtan, dancing and singing the same phrase over and over again, and working up that kind of excitement. But these are deep wisdom teachings that are given tune, that are given melody, and allows the person to not only hear the beautiful tones and express the beautiful truths, but to learn from the wisdom songs. You see, it may be a little bit more captivating to hear it put in song than just to hear a person talk, you see. So that's why in India we like to intersperse these teachings with the musical versions. But my point there was that at least 4 or 5 of these were all pointing straightly to a kind of coveting, or a kind of owning, or a kind of acquiring. And the practices are really opposite in India. You moderate. We started chanting that at the beginning of class. Satyena labhyastapasa hyesa atma samyagnena brahmacharyena. Brahmacharyena, you see, nityam. So in the chants of the Vedanta, you find these yogic practices. 5 of them being observances, and 5 of them being actual practices that you engage in. And those are the first 2 limbs of yoga. I hope everyone realizes that. To be attained and practiced before you even sit in asana. Because when you sit in asana, this cross-legged position, it opens up the back of the tailbone, and a certain energy is already rising in you from the food you eat. There's a sloka actually about that coming up here, that we can look at a chart on food and the energy that comes from it and how to sublimate it. It's a nice word. It's about the only word in English we have. There's several in Sanskrit. But the idea of sublimation is bringing energy from external things and extracting it out of those things and refining it and bringing it up at levels of your consciousness, so that you're always moving about in higher consciousness. Your food becomes blessed, and your acts become blessed, and your relations become blessed. All of life becomes divine. And that's what you see when you see a Christ or a Buddha or a Krishna or a Ramakrishna or a Vivekananda walking around the world in a body, as you see that refinement process at its best. They've taken everything, the essence from everything, and now they're just living in the refined part of that, the refined portion of it. So that is all found in yoga and in Kundalini yoga, and it's in Tantra, and you find it talked about a lot in Vedanta and Buddhism. So that is what we're focusing on here then on this sloka in chapter 1. May blessings rest on this oblation. So the idea is that it becomes an oblation. You offer it into the fire. You see, so there's a fire for everything. There's a fire for suffering. Most people know that pretty well. There's a fire for purification. There's a fire for practice, sadhana. There's a fire of wisdom. There's a fire of yoga. And then there's the fire of Brahman, see, the great light. And it's all levels of fire. We have a chart on that we often show. So may it all be an oblation, he says. We don't want to forget that. May students come, celibate students come. May I get food and drink and cloth without measure. May all the riches come to me. It's not going to hurt me at all because I don't covet them, asteya, because I don't give them and take them away, aparigraha. And I don't become impure, saucha, I stay pure. Santosha, I stay contented with or without things. So it's all a much deeper level of practice of non-materialism than one thinks by just encountering yoga or Vedanta for the first time, or a monk for the first time. Think, oh, I could do that. I could renounce everything, not really attached to this world. And then you go home and your children come running up and your parents call you and all the problems of your relationship happen, and your job, you lose your job or gain another job and it's not a good job, and all of a sudden you say, well, maybe this isn't so easy to renounce all this. I have too many responsibilities as a householder. So I'm going to have to find a different way to maneuver around the obstacles of Maya and stay clear of impurity, malcontent, disbelief in God, failure to study the scriptures, failure to do austerity, failure to remain peaceful, failure to remain truthful, failure to stay free of coveting things, failure to stay moderate in my appetites, and failure to uncover my past lifetimes in my memory. Parigraha, really, non-giving of gifts, is not just about, strings attached, which is the second level of the teaching. First level is, giving and receiving of gifts becomes a matter of collecting a house full of junk, that you never look at and you get bored with. The second level is strings are attached to these gifts. But the deepest level of teaching is that by concentrating on gift giving and receiving, that you forget your past lifetimes. That's how Vedavyas puts it in the Father of Vedanta. You have to meditate on emptiness, on formlessness, on your true nature to remember your past lifetimes. But by not doing that, you're distracted away from the knowledge of your past lifetimes. And you're running around saying silly things like, oh, I was Mary Queen of Scots in my past lifetime at New Age parties and stuff. But you don't know the half of it yet. You don't even know that you've lived many lifetimes, what to speak of actually gone inside, given up gift giving and gift receiving, materiality, materialism, sensuality, hedonism, and coveting of things, and concentrated on the emptiness of your own true self. The blissful emptiness of your own true self, where nothing exists but that light of consciousness which has no form. And that's all that exists anyway. See? Not just a matter of finding it and then saying, comparing it to the state you were in before. The state you were in before also was empty and full of light. You just weren't recognizing it yet. So, how profound can a sloka become? How profound can a line out of a sloka become? how profound can a word in a line, in a sloka, in an Upanishad become? Or its letter, or its particle. The oblation, oblation, oblation is the word that cries out here in this sentence. Make everything an offering into Brahman. Om Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam. We chant it all the time in Vedanta circles before we eat. We never put a morsel of food in our mouth without chanting that. Because if you don't bless the food, it doesn't matter if it's organic or pure or impure, it turns to poison in your bloodstream because you're coveting it, because you're attached to it, because you're not remembering the Lord as you eat it. It doesn't matter how pure or impure it was, or if it was sprayed with insecticides or not. If you say a blessing over it, then you will extract the essence out of it. And that will continue on in your practice. After you eat the food, the energy you get from food will then be available to you to do with what you choose is best, you see. Are you going to fritter it away on immoderate activities and transgress the law of moderation? Or are you going to store it up and bring it up the spine? And so you can live 100 years, the Upanishad says, in perfect health and be a blessing upon everyone, your students, your children, your family. So may they come from far off and from different directions. The Rishi is talking not just about his own children, if he should have any, but he's talking about these great beings who are all coming like moths to a flame. They see the light in the distance, they feel it. As Sri Ramakrishna said, when the lotus blooms in the woods, the bees don't need an engraved invitation to come. They're already on the wind, following that scent, so that they can get that nectar and be satisfied and be content, santosha. I think that's covers this sloka and its salient points. That is, may these students come, may they be moderate in their appetites and peaceful and calm and learn well, and may they learn how to offer everything as oblation into the fire, the different levels of fire. May they be self-controlled and calm. Jai, Jai. See, may that process continue, called the dharmic process. Let's move on so we make some headway to the next sloka. Still in that lesson 4. May I become renowned among men. Svaha. May I become superior to those who are wealthier than ordinary people. Svaha. O gracious Lord, may I enter into thee. Svaha. May thou, O gracious Lord, enter into me. In that self of thine, which has 1,000 branches, O Lord, may I cleanse myself of all sins. Svaha. As water flows downwards, as months mingle with the year, so, O Creator and Arranger of all, may celibate students come to me from all sides. Svaha. Thou art the refuge near at hand. Illuminate me, take possession of me completely. So, a very powerful sloka about a rishi, a man who's obviously very centered in the self and in the truth, and knows what's right, what is beneficial, what's good, and wants to attain that for all time and for other people, and also puts the sacred word behind it, svaha, like an offering into the fire. May this become true. The gods will hear that word, svaha. They know it very well. And will bless that person with all that he asks for, or she. It's just as clear to him as the fact that water flows downwards, or that months mingle into the year. It will come to pass, he says. And here's the sacred word to go with it. The sacred word svaha is a vyahriti, and there's a chart coming up on it. And in the next sloka, we begin to study the 4 great sacred declarations called the 4 Vyahritis. Bur, Bhuva, Svaha, Maha. Those are the first 4 of 7 worlds in internal worlds. And they're also the first 3 words of the sacred Gayatri mantra, chanted by millions of people in the world now. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam. We'll look at that. So, but before we get into the Gayatri and its meaning, let's look at this pregnant sentence here. In that self of thine, O Lord, are 1,000 branches. If you know me and the way I've approached studying Vedanta, Tantra, Yoga, Samkhya, Buddhism, and other of India's philosophies as facets of a jewel, then you know that if I see a sentence like that, I'm going to start talking to you about nadis, you see. That you have lots of nerve endings and nerves running through your body, but inside of each nerve there's 100,000 other nerves that you don't see and can't see. They're called nadis, and they're conducting a force called prana. I was speaking on that in a prison nearby in Salem a couple nights ago, and telling them about these 100,000 nadis that are flowing through the sacred human form. That's a quote from Devi Bhagavatam. Divine Mother says, there are some 8 million nadis flowing through the sacred human form of the body. I flow through them as prana. It's straight from the Mother Scriptures. So that many million nerves, you see, networks, then you begin to broach the subject of the subtle body. See how beings get in and out of bodies at death, how they go out of their body at sleep, how they exit out of their body in meditation, how they get back into the body after the bardo of death, and intermediate life. See how they select their parents and so forth, how it's all done, and how it all flows through certain nerves, nadis, passageways, if those nerves are open. Koivalya pragbara, if they're opened by practices, it's not just a brain we're talking about, it's a mind. It's not just a body we're talking about, it's life force that flows through the body. What causes the eye to see, what causes the ear to hear, what causes the tongue to taste. Nobody has been asking about that. Those are gods. Those are the gods of the elements there. Those are the gods of the senses, the indriyas. Nobody's looking at them as anything special because the nadis have all become clogged up with pain and pleasure. See? And they're not open. These practices are not being done to open them. You see, yamas and niyamas. I mean, you might say yama means death. You see? So if you don't do these practices, what's the result? Yama will get you, you see. But niyama. You see. Get away, death. You don't exist. Ignorance is unreal. Why should I let it cause any real confusion in me? I'm letting something unreal cause something more unreal. And pretty soon I'm in double jeopardy, triple jeopardy, and so forth. And maybe even appearing on the show Jeopardy, clogging up all my external arteries with thousands and thousands of dollars, see, which is just going to make me a materialist. So I want free of jeopardy. I want free, flowing nerves. Vivekananda said, I want to be free. I want everyone to be free as the air they breathe. Oh, what a nice saying. You see, it's real nice. It's actually unreal nice is what it is. Unreal nice means as free as the air they breathe. You get the connection, start breathing, you see. Your in-breath, held breath, out-breath. Prana comes from breathing. All of a sudden you find out the missing element in Western thinking, life force. Why science can't jump to the ancestors and accept heaven and accept what to speak of the fault of the theologians who are still talking about heaven being in the sky and God being some sort of a form on a throne up there and a devil out to get you at the backside, you see. But, despite that, which most intellectuals will just see as superstition, if not metaphoric, then there's this whole other direction to go by discovering the prana, the life force. So you'll hear me talking about these nerves, and when I come upon, O Lord, in thine self that has 1,000 branches, then you'll find me going to charts like this, which is the best I could do on an 8x11 to show just a little bit about the kingdoms of heaven within us. The Prajna Upanishad, which I mentioned earlier, says, "In the heart dwells the Atman. There are 101 nerves centered there, and in each of those are 100 more. And each of these branch into 70,000 others, 72,000 nadis. In all of these, the Shakti power flows." So, I looked in the Upanishads and I gathered all the most, you might say, esoteric and somewhat cryptic sayings that were there about the nadis, because you usually go to yoga and tantra, especially tantra, for that kind of information. But it's not like the Upanishads don't acknowledge it. Kundalini yoga is actually very close to Vedanta, because as you know, there's an Upanishad called the Yoga Kundalini Upanishad. It's one of the 108s. You can find it back here. You'll be able to locate it and on that chart. And so Vedanta has known about all of these systems, Kundalini and Patanjali's yoga and the Samkhya yoga, of course, and Buddhism and so forth. They've all mingled their waters. So when you talk about slokas like that, you would hear something like this: "Within the recesses of the heart is the akasha of consciousness." Akasha means space. "With its many openings, shaped like a calyx of a lotus, in which all the universes exist." Or, "The individual soul is as subtle as a hairpoint, divided and subdivided hundreds of times." That's a direct reference to those nerve endings and where they lead to. And we're not just talking about divine reality, we're talking about some very gross nerve endings that are plummeting, like rainwater seeking the lowest place, Sri Ramakrishna said. There are some souls, many actually, that are gravitating downwards into samsara and staying there for lifetimes, dream lifetimes. See? But to the rishis saying, well, it's just as natural as water flowing downwards. But that's not the kind of downward flow that you want. You want the upward moving prana. Downward moving prana is taking care of your excretions and your perspiration. Do you want that? Is that where you want to be? Or do you want this upward moving prana, which is taking care of your heavenward aspiring thoughts, as the Upanishad stated to us, Taittiriya Upanishad, our heaven aspiring thoughts, higher movements that bring us peace and bliss and contentment. You see, we don't have to practice them anymore. Yamas and niyamas, they are ours. They become ours. We live in them. It would be like finding a great tributary and just floating in it. And after having worked your way through lots of little brooks and streams with lots of dams and obstacles, you find this great tributary, see, and you're set free in it. Sri Ramakrishna said, like a fish kept in a goldfish bowl all its life, all of a sudden released into a lake. How would it feel? See? How free would it feel after seeing that was its own world? And it's sort of like a person who's attached just to the body, and then all of a sudden learns that there are 72,000 nadis in every physical nadi, and that prana and shakti is coursing along there, and it can actually align its consciousness with that. Thine eye be single, you shall know the truth. So you align your consciousness with that, and you flow with it. See, and if you start flowing downward, then you do it with consciousness. I'll help those souls. See, or you said, I'm tired of trying to help worthless people. I'm going to go to the Brahman and merge myself. See, if they won't listen, then I can't help them. They have to help themselves. When they get tired of dreaming hells and earths and heavens, then they can work their way. We'll be waiting, you see. Come inward, not outward into the atomic particle, inward into the atmic particle. Not outward into secular learning alone, inward to the jnana matra, to the true wisdom, to the dharma, just take that inward turn, you see. Do some of that refinement process. Or, if you want, bathe at the most sacred confluence of holy rivers found within the precious human body where the three spiritual nerve channels meet. Bathe at that most sacred of confluences, that most rare of pilgrimage points, refuge is inside of you, where the three great rivers meet. You see, that would be the Sushumna, the Ida, and the Pingala, right? Columbus had it sort of right. Pinta, the Santa Maria, what was it? The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. But the inward travelers go with the Ida, the Pingala, and the Sushumna. See, they want to course those inward rivers. All these subtle little tiny nerve endings lead to those, right up the spine. Not just the physical spine, but up the subtle spine, leading to these vortexes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and beyond, to the 7th chakra, which is really not a center at all, but reality itself. What else can be said? There in the heart, where all the subtle nerve endings meet, like the spokes of a chariot wheel at the hub, abides the Atman, stationary but becoming manifest. Meditate upon that self as Om, and Godspeed to you in crossing over to the farthest shore beyond all darkness. Svasti vaha paraya tamasaha parastat. We've all memorized that sloka. It's one of our 7 meditation chants out of the Taittiriya Upanishad. So that's Ara Eva Ratanabhau. Ratanabhau means a chariot wheel. So at the hub of that, where all the spokes meet, you have to think of that as the metaphor for where all these hundreds and thousands of subtle nerve endings meet, right there at the heart, right there at that Anahata chakra. See, beyond the beyond the eating, drinking, and sex life. See? And you can refine those nadis so much that you can transcend. You can transcend this barrier here at the base of the spine, where beings are just pretty much eating, drinking, and enjoying sense life and suffering that follows. You can even pierce through this Vishnu Granthi, where the ancestors are having a hard time doing, and get to the heart and live there. You could even go to the third eye, the throat and the third eye, and maybe even find your ideal. You see those words? Kailas, Manidvipa, and Vaikuntha, right? It's like one space where Kailas is the sacred city of Shiva. Manidvipa is the jewel island of essence, which is Divine Mother's realm. Manidvipa, the jewel. And Vaikuntha is the sacred city of Vishnu, Krishna. If, to show you how they would be one and the same, if you were a Shaivite, you might sing Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Sada Shiva, Samba Shiva. That's if you went to Kailas, they'd be singing that. But if you were going to Manidvipa, which is in the same place, I'll explain that later, then you'd be a mother devotee and you'd be singing Sharananda Mai Kali Moha Kalar Manu Mohini Sharananda Mai Kali Moha Kali Manu Mohini. Sharananda Mai Kali, O mother full of bliss. But if you went along the subtle nerve endings to this area of Vaikuntha, you'd be singing Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Jana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Advaita Pada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha. Vaishnavamscha, you'd go to the realm of the Vaishnavas, Vaikuntha. And how are these all one space? So you think, oh, God is one, they say, you see. But do the Buddhists just go to Lord Buddha, and the Vaishnavas to Krishna, and the Shaktas to Mother, and the Christians to Jesus, and so forth? Or is it really one space? See, like a man walks into a room. There's a feast there. He sees plates, he sees cups, and he sees utensils. See? That's the non-dualist. See? If three men walk into the room, one looks at the plate, one looks at the cup, and one looks at the utensils, you see. But it's the same room, and it's all on the same table. So that's how you would explain this non-dual reality that's underlying all ishtams, all ishtadevas and devis. See, depending on what set of nadis you've opened up and you're running along, you'll find that great feast. See, you'll know, the non-dualist will know that the whole setting is for him. You see, I can feast here on everything. All ideals are mine. See? Sarva Deva Devi Swarupaya. There had to be an ideal like that come along, and now it's what we have in the case of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. It's Om Shtapakaya Chadharmasya Sarva Dharma Swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Yate Namaha. So now we've got Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Swamiji, you see, in one triple ideal. The Sarva Dharma Swarupini, the essence of all dharmas, has come. People come and ask me, yeah, I love Sri Ramakrishna, and you give me the mantra to Sri Ramakrishna, but can I also have the mantra to Ganesha? If you like. But you must know that Ganesha and all other ideals are now there in Sri Ramakrishna. Sarva, Deva, Devi, all gods and goddesses are there. So when you reach a level like that, you see, you've become a master of inward ascension. I have a chart coming up probably tomorrow called Inward Ascension around one of these slokas in the Taittiriya Upanishad. So when I read a line like that, then I just can't help but explain inner travel, inward ascension, and how to most of us, most of these subtle passageways are blocked by our own ignorance. Sometimes for reasons that are beyond our control. Sometimes they're blocked on purpose by a higher power. It's not like it's always your fault kind of thing. But you should be pressing against those obstacles. You should be trying to open those nadis. That if you weren't meant to, then they wouldn't have given you practices like this. See, like this. See, austerities, practices like this. You're sitting in front of me, listening to me talk for 3 whole hours, see? Trying not to fall asleep. See? But then you hear something of an esoteric nature like that, you see, and it begins to thrill you, as we read the other day. For those of you who weren't here, there is within the heart the bright space known to all. Let the worshipper meditate upon and realize the intelligent, imperishable light there. The hollow canal called the Sushumna lies through the 2 arteries of the upper palate and the nipple-like growth that hangs down from amidst the 2 palatal arteries. It passes out at the crown where the root of the hair is made to part, opening the skull in the center. This is the gate leading to the Supreme Lord. And it goes on. That gets into this whole teaching on meditating on Bhur Bhuva Swaha, how these are sacred utterances, and merely saying them and repeating them in the Gayatri is a means to opening these main arteries. You might say that your whole life is a practice in opening these smaller articles or avoiding other passageways, isn't it? You see, if you're getting tempted away from God and by this old witch, the world, my teacher used to call it the old waddled. See, this old waddled. See. his Hindu accent. You see, Wahduld, I guess. It's old waddled. I thought he was talking about some cartoon character or something, but we found out finally he was talking about the world of Maya. So if you're getting bewitched away from the path, you see, the straight and true, the razor's edged path, which is hard to tread, and through which you approach the teacher to learn about these and begin to consider these, and then begin to do exercises that actually open these up, then you're beginning to live that eternal life which Christ wanted the fishermen to have along the river. I mean, think of it. They were sitting there on a river when he gave that teaching. They were fishing out of a river with nets. You see the symbology there. It's like this, you see. They were fishing with nets using 10 fingers and 10 toes, you see. Christ came and looked at that. Boy, they're just clueless. Do you know the teaching of fives? Don't you know that the net you're throwing is Maya? Don't you know that fishes and loaves are in abundance for the worshipper of the Lord? And especially, don't you know that this river flowing by is a nadi, a physical version of a channel that's flowing through you. You must find the inner river now, called the Ida, or the Pingala, or the Sushumna, and take an inner journey. Come with me to Gethsemane, and we'll meditate on that together. See. And then it gets to Gethsemane. John, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. And John goes, what are you talking about? The Word, John, the Word. See. And then the teaching has to begin to become imparted so that John will learn it? No, so that John will remember it. Everyone knows this. Otherwise we wouldn't have created rivers to go swim in. We wouldn't have created earth to walk on. We wouldn't have created water out of our tongue, to enjoy different flavors and slake our thirst. And we wouldn't have created fire so we can move about. It's all been done by the Great Self through these mechanisms along these nerve channels called nadis. Now, it's going to be very hard for me to leave this sloka. Really, really hard. It's such a precious teaching that we don't know about. We have to consider it. Everything is railing against it in the materialistic society. Everything. Science with its intellectual giants, and religion with its attachment to fundamentalism, society with its attachment to politics and business, parents with their attachment to progeny without knowing about the conjunctions of progeny. I mean, you can go on and on naming how many obstacles there are out there against this kind of wisdom. And then what you read it in the Upanishad by a group of rishis that realized it and passed it on to children in a country like India, which has the longest living scriptures and just doesn't have just one prophet and one book, but hundreds and dozens of each. Then all of a sudden you begin to be convinced in the opposite direction, you see. Must be more to this than meets the eye, or in this case, meets the ear. See? So, hard for me to leave this. Anything else here? Thou art the refuge near at hand. These rivers, these tributaries flowing into the great ocean of Brahman is nearest and dearest. They say higher than the highest, lower than the lowest, faster than the fastest, slower than the slowest. It outstrips all that runs. That's a sloka right out of the Upanishad. So the idea is it's nearest and dearest to you. Moda, and pramoda. You need to hold it dear first, priya, and then moda, go after it, and pramoda, gain it, you see. So this is what you are usually doing with wealth. Well, that's most dear to me. I'm going to go after it. I got it. The end of life, right? But you have to consider God as the most dear thing, and you must go after that and attain that. Because as Ram says here, you flatter the millionaire, but you don't know that the Lord is the owner of the whole universe. The whole universe here just doesn't mean the outer universe that you're seeking, but all these inner universes along these various spiritual pathways that are open to the spiritual traveler. to the intrepid wayfarer who moves within. In meditation, you say, how do I do this? Where's my aerial car? You see, am I going up in space? Or am I just going into my imagination? Your aerial car is your mind, and these nerve passages are within your subtle body, leading to your causal body and beyond, and you have to get into the mind and use it by means, fuel it by the means of prana to take you there, see? So you're going to have that conjunction. What's this conjunction? What are these sets of fives? Body, senses, prana, mind and intellect. How about that for a fivefold? Chariot, you see, and its fuel. So, refuge near at hand, thou art the refuge near at hand. Illuminate me, take full possession of me. This is called Sharanagata. I make a complete offering of myself to my guru. It reminds me of another beautiful song, which Vivekananda wrote for his teacher. That particular verse, he says, Advaita tattva samahita chetam projvala bhakti patavrita vritam Advaita tattva samahita chetam projvala bhakti patavrita vritam karma kalevara madbhuta chestam Karma kalevara madbhuta chestam Yami gurum sharanam bhavavaijam Yami gurum sharanam bhavavaijam Naradeva deva jaya jaya Naradeva 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 Victory to the Lord who dwells in mankind. That was one of Swamiji's, if not his most precious theme. All the themes, universal and Vedantic and so forth, were really sannyas and all those things. You could just go on numbering the things that he held precious. Freedom, fearlessness, we know all of those qualities, but I'd say that probably this would surmount them all, is this idea that God is in mankind and it needs to be realized. And when it is, then man becomes God walking around on two legs. Because he said there's no other God anywhere that you're going to find here. It's not up in heaven, sitting on a cloud, and we haven't seen any. It has to be the divine man and the divine woman. This is the ideal for the age. It has to be realized here and now in this very life. Sure, you can go inside and find your ancestors. A few of them might be rather great, and you can go further inside and find the angels, and they might be all shiny, you see, and imbued and enjoying heaven and bliss. Go further inside, you'll find the gods and goddesses and bow to them, because there are many powerful devas and devis. And then go further inside and find the rishis and the yogis and the seers and the sages and the saints, and even go further inside and find the saviors. But until you find that all inside of yourself, what does it really amount to? See? You can see a great soul, but can you be a great soul? So this is what Vivekananda wants of everyone. See? I want them to be free as the air they breathe. So start breathing and attain your divine heritage. In this very life, attain it. When else? People would walk up and say, "Oh, Swamiji, I don't know." And you go, if you don't know, who does know? what have you been pretending all this time? If you don't know, you see, what ignorance have you been pretending? So he would try and galvanize you and turn it back on you, you see, and find it all within the self and realize it there. So he says here, I make a complete offering of myself to my Guru, who is an all-powerful wave of purity rising out of an infinite ocean of Shakti. Advaya tattvam samahita chittam projvala bhakti patavrita vritam bhakti. I make that offering. And then yami gurum sharanam. So that's what I was saying. That sloka that we just finished reading spoke of sharanam. Take me over completely. Isn't that what it said? Illuminate me completely. Take possession of me. See, so this is a 100% offering of the individualized soul, the apparently individualized soul, to the Supreme Soul. Here, I hand you myself. You see, because myself is unreal. See, my fives are unreal. All processes are unreal. The self doesn't move. It's higher than the higher, lowest and lower than lowest. It's all pervasive, so I give everything away that moves. I give away everything that thinks. I give away everything that desires, everything that attaches. I give it all away to the one indivisible reality. And then I become that, you see. The Upanishad says, just like a crystal placed in front of a yellow flower turns yellow, in front of a blue flower turns blue, and so forth, the mind placed anywhere becomes that. So if you place that mind on God rather than on money, on peace rather than war, and so forth, then it takes on those qualities. The mind will obey you like that. But why are you missing the power to do that? Because you haven't become as free as the air you breathe. See, you don't have the prana to do it. And if you wait till you're too old, it's going to be even harder to get that prana moving, so that you can take this inner journey. I've showed this chart 5 or 6 times since its inception a couple years ago, and we've probably never really gone through it completely, but I keep bringing it up, little facets of it that reminds me of this, especially the hundreds and thousands of nadis that flow through the precious human body. But there's facets of it here, like here's the occult light, ocean of occult light, you see below the Vishnu Granthi. Here's the Jnanakasha, the space of pure wisdom. So heaven is rather focused. The ancestors are focused on powers. And their powers are, I want to go back to earth and own land and have money and be the head of my family and be highest in learning, you see, in lower learning. But, I'll create karma from that and I'll get dragged back down to earth, see. Burloka, Uvarloka, Svarloka. Those are the 3 great words that they're not knowing the meaning of. And there's a possibility of falling into this myriad maya here. Myriad souls wandering in ignorance, see, inside of these worlds, which are really all made of Brahman and full of Kundalini Shakti as prana, but they're not seeing it as that. So they go from heaven to earth to hell. Anyone know that verse? Say peace to all.
No danger.
Yeah. And there's another one too that's even better. It drags from birth to death and death to birth the soul. They conquer all who conquer self. Know this and never yield. So if you're in the world of Bur and you don't know that it's Bur, and you can't make the utterance Bur in the knowledge of what it really means, then you don't know the A of Om. So you don't know your own waking state. You don't know that the world is actually unreal and that you should be seeing through it and living in this loka while you're here. That's called Jivan Mukta. I'm going to become a Jivan Mukta, that is, I'm going to become a living, liberated body on earth. So that has to do with this sloka. We're still in lesson 4. When we say, in that self of thine are 1,000 branches, thou art the refuge near at hand, illuminate me and take possession of me. All right, so we covered 2 charts and 1 sloka in our first half, so now let's take our break. And we will return in 15 minutes. The live streaming audience can look at these 2 charts while we're away. I'll leave them here for you to look at if you want to take a closer study of them. We'll return and take up this beautiful lesson on Bhur Bhuva Swaha next in the second half, the great Gayatri mantra. Namaste. Namaskar. We are back here in the Dharma classroom at the SRV Association's ashram in Portland, Oregon, where we're live streaming to you, as we do and have been doing for several years now. These classes have become a whole series of YouTube classes which you can get to through either our website, SRV, or through Advaita Academy, who has been so generous as to procure for us this fine equipment, camera, and give us a channel on which to broadcast. Myself being the only Westerner on that channel that's teaching, but many other great teachers also on that channel, even a few women swamis and an acharya and so forth. So very glad to join the ranks of such beings to help spread the Dharma around the world, a world that's very much in need of it. And to even go back to some good old-fashioned, you might say, or old-style teachings, you go back to the Upanishads, but you find out, though, whereas they're, in historical context, they're very ancient, they're actually timeless in their message. And they apply just as much today, or maybe even more so, than they did back at the time of the rishis, when so many enlightened souls were there in your neighborhood. You wouldn't have to go far to run into one, just taking a walk in nature. But here you have to maybe take a pilgrimage to somewhere to find one, and there's a long distance involved. And so the live streaming format makes that distance a lot less, and we can tune more into the divine moment, that eternal moment which transcends all phases of time. Like Shiva, the Trikaladarshi seer. He transcends all forms of all phases of time and gets right to the point and destroys our ignorance. That is what Lord Brahma created or projected from his great Mahat, from the great mind, which is one of the Vyahritis here we're going to study soon. The Mahat is the fourth great sacred utterance. Was supposed to remain sattvic, but as it trickled down in sets of fives, as we say, all the way down to earth, some substantial tarnishes and overlays and superimpositions and impurities were gathered in the ignorant minds of living beings who fell out of step with Lord Brahma's sattvic projection, and maybe didn't then find their way back to Vishnu's sustenance of all that beautiful work that Lord Brahma made out of his sankalpic process. And so then maybe you have to take recourse to Shiva at the end against their will. They think everything's being destroyed, everything's dying, but actually it's just returning in a cycle to Lord Brahma's beautiful mind again, back to its source. And all of that in a cycle of creation, which we call God with form, or Saguna Brahman. But the Nirguna Brahman still remains to be fathomed, still remains to be seen if you can penetrate through grantis like this, Brahma Granti, Vishnu Granti, even the Rudra Granti, which stands as a barrier between the third eye and this chakra. Very hard for enlightened souls to get beyond the third eye. They enter and exit through there when they take bodies, and the yogis, and then this is a whole different level of attainment. Might call it the territory of the avatars. But that Rudra Granti there, very difficult. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, I spend my time running a boat race back and forth between those two centers. He said in his very humorous way of putting it, those great souls run a boat race between the third eye and the crown chakra. So they have great facility, and they're coming back into knowledge of the Trinity's whole process, God with form, and then they're disappearing from that. We were talking about that at the break, actually, the difference between all this Brahman realization and then coming to know the cosmological process in sets of fives, from its most refined point, causal point, down through the subtle to the gross and reversed. So all of that the rishis are well aware of when they put out these teachings, and they put it nicely in the Gayatri mantra. The Gayatri mantra is quite ancient, all the way back to the time of that first name of Mother, whom we know as Saraswati. Here she is in the backdrop of this chart around the meaning of the Gayatri mantra. She was called, in the earliest time, probably Himavat. We find her called that in the Keno Upanishad. Keno Upanishad, she was that great being who explained Brahman to the gods, because Brahman appeared as a huge pillar of light, and the gods couldn't fathom it. God of fire tried to fathom it, got burned away, and God of wind tried to fathom it, got blown away. That's an expression that applies nowadays. It just got blown away by Brahman. And all the gods came forward and tried to see it. But when the god of gods, Indra, came forward to see that pillar of light, it disappeared. And then in its place was Himavati, the Divine Mother of the Universe. And Indra asked her, what was that pillar of light? Oh, that was Brahman. You're going to have to meditate on that to realize it. So she always acts as a conduit, a great conduit, like a great channel, through which to reveal the formless reality, which is still beyond the ken of most beings who are embodied, even in heaven. Embodied, whether they're embodied in gross bodies or subtle bodies, even the causal body stands then as a barrier. Right there, that Vishnu, that Rudra Granthi stands as a barrier to understanding or completely immersing in the ocean of Brahman. Very difficult, very rare the soul that can do that. We don't hand it out like candy in Vedanta. Like, oh yeah, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, I've had that. I'll put it in my brochure, you see. If you wouldn't be writing brochures if you had that Samadhi. Wouldn't be in business. So the very rare state of such a soul like that is made even more rare when it can gather its mind back from Brahman. Sri Ramakrishna said that's a very rare soul that can do that, can actually, like a hailstone falling in an ocean, and can all of a sudden return to a hailstone state in full knowledge of it coming out of the ocean, being the ocean being its source. So there are degrees and degrees of enlightenment and enlightened souls and enlightened states. I don't know if Annapurna, if you have that handy, but if we were to show, say, this chart really quick before we go to the Gayatri. Here's some of the states, you see. Savitarka Samadhi, Nirvitarka Samadhi, Savichara Samadhi, Nirvichara Samadhi. Unmana Samadhi, Sananda Samadhi, Bhava Samadhi, Sasmita Samadhi, Chaitana Samadhi, Sampragyata Samadhi, Savikalpa Samadhi, Stiti Samadhi, Jada Samadhi, Bhavamukha, Satori, Turiya, Nirvana, Asampragyata, Nirvikalpa, more or less gradated in states of attainment of different kinds of moods and states of awareness that these souls who have opened up these inner passageways can attain to, all while sitting there in meditation in the physical body. So a very rare soul to be able to come in and out of those states. We always like to tell that story about Sri Ramakrishna in Samadhi, and then people sitting around like this waiting for him to come out, see. And then he comes out of Samadhi and he looks at his beloved Naren. Swami Vivekananda says, "Who are you again?" He can't even recognize egos yet because his ego hasn't come back. And so they hand him a glass of water and he puts his finger in it. Oh yes, I'm in the world of the five elements now. As if he had left completely, like you do tonight in deep sleep. And hopefully you will do someday in Samadhi. Then you just come back to this realm. But Holy Mother used to say, does God exist only when eyes are closed and cease to exist when you open them? Or is God existing at all times? And the shades are just being lowered. The curtains are being drawn by none other than little old you when you want to experience the five senses and when you want to give them up. See? But there should be no fear about giving them up. You go into sleep, deep sleep without fear. You go to sleep tonight without fear. Why shouldn't you go into death without fear? Why shouldn't you go into deep meditation without fear? So that's why we sing Abai Pade Pran Shopechi Ami Abai Pade Pran Shopechi Ami Ar Ki Jamir Baire Kechi Abai pade prana shopechi. Abai is fearlessness, and that's that mudra. And you must know that mudra. How would you know that mudra? The fives. You have to get over your fear of air, earth, fire, water, and ether. Your fear means actually not you don't know them. They can snap back at you. You can drown, you can burn, you can die in a landslide. Thousands of souls experience that all the time. Probably since I sat here today, many have experienced it, have died from catastrophes like that, just in a few hours. So to master the tattvas is very important in these Indian darshanas. The 24 tattvas, or you could call them 25, if you add the cosmic mind into them. So that fearlessness then is a requisite for peace of mind, contentment, and so forth. That's what you will arrive at and live in a state of fearlessness, abhaya pratistam, as Vivekananda wrote in his letter to some of his disciples or to his brother monks. We shall crush the stars to atoms. We shall unhinge the universe. Don't you know who we are? We are the children of Sri Ramakrishna. That's why he would write a beautiful song like that. Nara Deva Deva Jaya Jaya Nara Deva. Don't you know who we are? We're the children of the Lord. We're the children of the Divine Mother of the universe. What need we fear of anything? See? A beautiful song in India about Mother Kali sings, first line, I have received a command from the Divine Mother of the universe that death must die. And so I'm going about the task now of putting death in its own grave. I'll make sure of it. I'll hammer in the coffin nails myself. How many of them are there? Probably 25 in that case. So you get the gist then. I mean, I just show this as a quick one. Did you find it to show them on the live streaming? How many different kinds of samadhi? And this is just a short list. If I went into other darshanas than Tantra and Vedanta and Yoga, you'll probably find many others. What to speak of, say, Fana in the Muslim religion, or Nirvana, is that there in Buddhist tradition. So basically, in all the traditions, you have this non-dual state of awareness that is the backdrop, the underlying substratum, as Lord Kapila called it, for everything in form. You can't have one without the other, you see. So they are God with form and God beyond form. Now, in order to understand that in the way the Taittiriya Upanishad would explain it, then it goes deep into the Gayatri. This is one of 3 Upanishads, and the only major Upanishad, that is of the 10 or 11 commented on by Shankara, that takes up the Gayatri in such detail. It also takes up food in detail, and it also takes up prana in detail, which is why I wanted to make it the next Upanishad for our study, because those are the missing parts of our understanding in the West. What to do with food, how to make it sacred, what to do with its energy, and what is the prana that comes from food, and how is it that man does not live by bread alone? He lives by prana, not by food alone. He lives by the prana in food. If we were to understand that, we would open up these nadis, and we would be able to travel inside on the prana. We would make that Garuda bird our own vehicle, see, as Vishnu does. Let's take this next sloka then. Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Svaha. These are verily the 3 celebrated mystical utterances. I have a chart on that, but we'll take that in a minute. Bless you. In addition to these, there is, of course, a 4th, which Maha Chamasya proclaimed. He was a great rishi. We don't know a lot about him, but he uncovered in his meditation that 4th state, that 4th mystical utterance, Maha, or Mahat. So, that is Brahman. That is Atman. Other gods are its limbs. Don't stop, Babaji. Just keep going. What is called Bhuhu stands for this world, the fire, the sacred verses, the Rik Veda, and the air that is breathed in, pranaha. What is denoted as Bhuvaha stands for the intermediate space between heaven and earth, the air, the Samaveda, and the air that is breathed out, apanaha. What is noted as Suvaha stands for heaven, the sun, the sacrificial formula in the Yajurveda, and the vital airs that sustain life when breath is arrested, Vyanaha. So we already brought in 3 of the 5 pranas, the in-breath, the held breath, the out-breath. What is called Mahat is the sun, the moon, Brahman, Om, and food. Verily, through the sun all the worlds, through the moon all lights, through Brahman all the Vedas, and through food all animate beings are imagined and magnified. These indeed are the 4 Vyahritis, comprising in a group of 4 and becoming fourfold. He who meditates upon them knows Brahman, and to him all gods bring homage. That's how important they think of the syllables, those profound seeds which are in your deep sleep state and which are in the mind of Brahman. Lord Brahma, not Brahman, don't confuse them, which are in the mind of Lord Brahma at the very inception of a cycle. Cycles which are endless and which just return like a figure 8 to another cycle, as Buddha said. Get out of the river and sit on the banks and you'll see how everything comes again. Everything returns, he said. But you have to get out of that river of time and become a witness to know that. So what you come to know then, as far as the first 4 of these 7 Vyahritis, because you also have other worlds added in. You see there's Bur, Bhuvar, Svar, and then Janaloka, Tapaloka, Brahmaloka, Tapaloka, and Brahmaloka. Did I miss one? Oh yeah, Maharloka, Janaloka, Taparloka, and Brahmaloka. Those are called the 7 worlds. 7 upper worlds, and then there's 7 lower hells called Patalas, and Earth is right there sort of in the middle, you see, tucked in between them. Earth is a very pivotal, important place then for a soul to realize Brahman, because it's where good and bad grind, like the forces that make a diamond. And so souls that come to Earth have the greatest opportunity of realizing their true nature. When the gods abandon their positions in the highest heavens, they will come to Earth, Vivekananda says, to take up a body, and you see a great human being there. But if that great human being is still attached to domination, say like the Alexander the Greats and the Attila the Huns and the Napoleons and so forth that we have in the West, then you're going not to have much spiritual growth in that life, you see. You'll probably just become an asura or a god after your death. You'll return to that realm that your karmas assign you to. But if you come and transcend the desire for these things, that if you want peace instead of power, is what my teacher used to put it, you want peace instead of power, then you can completely validate this human birth and substantiate your existence and realize the highest truth. And there's no reason then why Burloka and Brahmaloka can't just be the same place, the same location inside of you, with your access to them being perfectly a matter of speedy concourse. It's just in and out, like planes and jets in and out of airports. See. So a little mention of that. As long as we're here, you can see here also how Bur, Bhuvar, Svarloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Taparloka, and Brahmaloka, which is assigned on this chart, also can be allocated to or correlated to the 7 chakras. And Sri Ramakrishna says there, nobody just stays on the highest note of the flute. It's hard, and it's shrill. They have to come down to play on the lower notes of the flute. And so it's not like, oh, poor me, I can't have the highest samadhi. It's like if you had the highest samadhi all the time, you wouldn't be poor me anymore. You wouldn't even be me anymore. There would be nothing left of you or me. No more is I or thou or God or man. See, all is I and all is bliss, and thou art that. You would be a bird that had disappeared into the heights. But Sri Ramakrishna used to say, no matter how high a bird might fly, it has to come down to the branches of a tree once in a while and rest. Branches, nadis, purchase places, you see. So he couldn't even play the highest note of the flute that long. He would have to come down to this center, you see, the center of the heart. And that's where the great beings, the devotees of the Lord, exist. He called it the drawing room of the Lord, where he can talk with the devotees of God. So we show that as a reference because it comes up in a timely fashion here. But let's go back to and look at the Gayatri mantra, which is Mother's precious mantra, said daily multiple times by millions of beings. It must have a lot of power in it, and it must be also given a lot of power daily, like pouring in to it by these devotees. The first quote there, on that adorable splendor of the divine creator may we meditate. May he our thoughts inspire, who is beyond all darkness. That's a quick English meaning to the Gayatri mantra. We usually say, Om Bhur Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyan Bhargo Devasya Dhimohi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. And then we say, may we meditate on that effulgent light abiding in our hearts and minds, and may that divine light protect us, and so forth. We have our own different kind of English translations you find there. That's a very short one I found in the Upanishad. On that adorable splendor of the divine creator may we meditate. May he our thoughts inspire, who is beyond all darkness. No gender there, by the way. Really could be saying she just as easily. Now, there is Saraswati, as I said. Let's see what that first four words, which is the great Bijam Om plus the first three of the Vyahritis. You have to get used to that word if you're going to study the Taittiriya Upanishad. The first of the four Vyahritis. I think it's going to help to have a visual. We'll study this later, but this is the new chart about it. Four celebrated mystical utterances. And there you see them, Bhur, Bhavaha, Suvaha, and Maha, and what the Upanishad says about each of them. And there is, of course, Saraswati there in the scene, and all of these things which are suggested by, as conjunctions and tattvas, principles, by the utterance of these four. We'll get back to that, but that gives you a kind of visual so that you can probably make it a little bit more real in your mind's eye about the Gayatri and how important it is. That's coming in, I think, the next sloka. We might get to it tomorrow morning. Now let's look at this. And this is right out of the Upanishad, so this isn't my interpretation of it. I'll maybe put in a few comments, but you get the traditional, the straight traditional dope, as they say, right from the mouth of the Rishi, out of the Upanishad, which it says about Bhur Bhuva Swaha, the Supreme, assuming the guise of the Trinity, comes to be styled as the goddess Tripuri. By her power are fashioned the three abodes, earth, the atmospheres, and heaven. Her bijam, Hrim, along with its terrible power, permeates the terminus of the three peaks, emanating from the junction between her two eyebrows, which is the seat of equilibrium of the three gunas, and where the world of objects gets dissolved. It's a mouthful. See, you find out who Tripura Sundari is, for instance. When I got the mantra from my teacher, Swami Sheshanandaji Maharaj, he told me that that this meditation on the mother, because he asked me, who's your ideal? And I said, I love Divine Mother. So he said, then he gave me the way to meditate on the mantra, and he gave me the bijams. And he gave me another mantra, one for father and one for mother, as it were. So and he explained to me a little bit about the meaning of the bijams in quick fashion, and had me meditate on them for a while. But he told me that Bhur Bhuva Swaha was really the first three forms of mother, called Tripura Sundari, and that she had four forms. So basically you meditate on the mantra, and you're beginning to get the outer form of the mother, and then you have to take and meditate on the inner form of the mother, and then the causal form of the mother. That's Tripura Sundari. And she opens up to you the meaning of the mantra. The outer saying of the word of the mantra is just her outer form, and you have to discover her inner form next, and then her form beyond form, her causal form. And then you'll find out that you'll find your way to this, beyond Tripura Sundari, to this fourth state. So I relate to that when I read this. And also the Upanishad puts in here that it's the seat of equilibrium of the three gunas. If you meditate on Tripura Sundari with this mantra, then it immediately puts you in a place of equilibrium beyond tamas, rajas, and sattva. If you all remember what those are, the three gunas. That's pretty much inertia, and then frenetic activity, you could call it, and then equilibrium or balance is sattva. So those three are there. And it's where the three objects get dissolved when you go beyond them, the world of objects, that is. So again, she assumes the Trinity, the guise of the Trinity, comes to be styled as the goddess Tripuri, and by her power the three abodes, earth, atmosphere, and heaven, are formed. So when you're saying Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, you're really talking about earth, the inner space, and heaven. We don't have any way of understanding the inner space, and our idea of heaven is rather surface-like too. We would call them lower heaven and higher heaven in this context. But the atmosphere between the inner space is those beings in the pranakasha that exist just hand in glove next to us. They're like elemental spirits, you could call them. There's really no English jargon for it that you can really explain them by, but in India you would call them nagas and naginis and those kinds of beings. So there's an inner space that there's a junction between earth and heaven. And of course these are inside of you. So when you say Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, and you say Shanti, 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 you're asking for that peace be on all three of those worlds. You might be saying too, opening up the nadis, because there are guardians at the gate between these three worlds. And if you have the right bijam to say, the guardian, the gate will stand aside, and you can pass through that passage. When you're meditating, you find a lot of blocks inside of your head. First it's, aching body and erratic breath, or you're thinking about food, or you're distracted, or whatever. And those are just gross distractions. But when you get into deeper meditation, you'll find you can't get beyond certain blockages. Your meditation isn't getting very deep, and there's some unseen barriers there, like these granthis. See, only not that major. And so if you keep saying the Gayatri, or you keep saying the mother mantra, you'll weaken the fabric of those blockages, and you'll break through. And that's where people all of a sudden have insights, see, or they have an aha moment, you see, or an epiphany, we say nowadays. You see, oh, he had an epiphany. But of course, these are spiritually based, not like, say, in quantum mechanics or physics or something. These are inner realizations, and you're piercing through subtle blockages, granthis or knots, and they're in your body, and they're in your prana, and they're in your mind, and they're in your intelligence, and they're in your philosophy. They're even in your spiritual life, these subtle blockages. So you pierce through them, and that's really one of the great efficacies of any mantra. But some mantras are completely effective for that, like Mother Mantra. Gayatri Mantra would be one of those, based in Divine Mother reality. Every guardian at every gate will open up if you have the right devotion to Mother and the words to go with it. Some of those words are Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, the 4 Vyahritis. Let's see what Tat means. Tat is a very powerful word. Is verily the eternal Brahman. The English word for that, to keep it as simple as possible, is that, with a capital T. Om Tat Sat, for instance, is one of the great non-dual utterances. Might call it a non-dual Vyahriti if you want. So Tat means that, or that Brahman. Om Tat Sat, or Tat Tvamasi, that thou art. They want that conjunction out of you. They want you to meld the Jivatman with the Paramatman in meditation, so that you know I and my Father are one. It is verily the eternal Brahman, the indefinable, impeccable, unconditioned and unconstrained. It thinks, perceives, evolves, and desires the status of consciousness. Thus it evolves as the visible world. Its desiring is done through the ascetics, mystics, seers, and their sacrifices. This is beautiful, really. As somebody was talking about desire at the break, see, and are the seers completely desireless? No, they're desires for Brahman, and then Brahman desires back through them. What they want to see happen in the world happens. See, anything a truthful man says, then that happens. So, what's he going to say? Holy Mother said, Sri Ramakrishna said many, many things in his life, and every one of them was true. So you're seeing the result of Sri Ramakrishna's words here, for instance, and in other little honeycombs about the world, where they worship Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Mother Kali, Mother Durga, and Vedanta societies of Swami Vivekananda, for instance. Sister Nivedita went to see Vivekananda speak for the first time. They asked her later, why did you follow him? Give up everything and follow him? She said, because the first thing I heard him say was truth. The next thing I heard him say was truth. Then I listened to him for months and months, and I heard that he spoke nothing but truth. He never said anything false. So this is a great soul that is far beyond just practicing satyam, which is one of these yamas that we were talking about, has realized the truth in all words and adheres to it without effort. You see, it's not like, oh, I'm trying not to lie. You see, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a person who was incapable of telling a lie. It just does not occur there. It's so pure. That's one thing I think of when I read this. The other thing I think of, that is that Brahman desires through the ascetics, mystics, and seers and their various sacrifices. These aren't the sacrifices of the Brahmin priests, for instance. You're not talking about being in a temple and offering oblations and doing the whole traditional thing. You're talking about free souls and their sacrifices. They're not working with outer principles, they're working with your mind. The greatest miracle possible, Holy Mother said, was the fashioning of a human mind into a knower of Brahman. There is no miracle better than that. There is no rite or ritual superior to that. So if you can even get one mind on your side, like Vivekananda did with Nivedita, then you've accomplished a huge thing that is almost unknown. Now, take that in context with Vivekananda convincing thousands of young Hindu men to give up the world. That is utterly unbelievable. There's only one other phenomena in spiritual record that is as great as that, and that's how Buddhism spread without violence. Those two things are the most amazing phenomena that we've ever seen. Vivekananda convincing thousands of people to give up the world. If you tried to even ask one person to give it up yourself, then you'd know how hard it was. That ego is going to stand there and going, no. I like the world, it's my oyster. How dare you, you see. But how did he do that? See? And how did Buddhism spread without a word of violence? Even, what to speak of lifting a finger without even lifting a sword, you see. So those are two great phenomena. So that's what I think of when I think of Brahman desires through the ascetics, mystics, seers, and their sacrifices. Don't say that that's some sort of puja that they're doing, you see. They may do that, but it doesn't mean that that's their sacrifice. Their sacrifice is an entire different level of sacrifice. It's a supreme mahayagya they're doing by taking on the body. The Gita explains that nice in terms of Sri Krishna. Now the other thing that comes to my mind for commentary here is it evolves as the visible world. There, in the Taittiriya Upanishad, there's this beautiful chant, Adihi sa samyoga namitta hetu, paras trikala dakalopi drishtaha, tam vishvarupam bhava bhutamidyam. And it basically means meditate on the Lord as your own self, seated in your heart, who appears to you as the visible universe. Can't get much more complete than that in a sentence, could you? So meditate on the Blessed Lord as your own self, seated in your own heart. It appears to you as the visible universe. And know it. It says, and know it as the primal cause of the relationship between consciousness and matter. Devam svachitastam upasya purvam, it ends. See? Svachitasta, that's steady intelligence. So that's this mother who is the steady intelligence behind all words. I keep having to think of ways of bringing it back to the thinking human mind so that we don't lose the precious gist of it in words and in graphs and ways that we try and move towards explication of it. But it's really this living intelligence. Lex Dixon, our founder, was always talking about that. What is desired is born. In truth, being free of desires, it holds sway over all beings. It puts forth letters like T-A-T. Therefore, Tat is desireless desire. Whoso knows all this becomes the Lord. So you meditate on the word and on its letters and find their significance, but you meditate on them. You see, you can look for them outer meaning first, but then you're going to have to go to the inner meaning, and then you're going to have to go to the true meaning, the essential meaning. The outer tree is false. The swirling particle tree is the real tree, but the Buddha nature tree is the essence tree. That's how Dalai Lama would put it. So you have to go into 3 levels of the meaning of a thing, like T-A-T or A-U-M. And there you'll find Mother Intelligence, and that's Tripura Sundari. She lies behind those 3 things as the essence in your heart. See that she's seated in your heart. But in order to do that, you're going to have to know the A-U-M of Om, you see, and find your way to that Tripura Sundari. Or you'll have to become a knower of Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, and get to the Mahat. The Mahat is Lord Brahma, who projects it all. And how does he project it? He gets the permission from her. That's in the scriptures of India. See, Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. There's stories of Brahma. Vishnu's laying in an ocean of etheric waters, Ekarnava. A stem comes out of his navel as he floats there in cosmic sleep. A lotus of 1,000 petals blooms at the top of that stem, and there's Lord Brahma. Oh, another cycle. See, wake up. But it's Mother Power that's waking him up, you see. And then he goes, what should I do now? It's so beautiful. Oh, look, there's my friend Vishnu down there, you see, out of whose navel I came. Navel-born one, you see. Like the calyx of a lotus, right? We had that. So what do I do now? Oh yes, Divine Mother then appears to him. Brahma, of the Trinity, really, Mother appears most to Lord Brahma, I find. Especially when the other gods are confused. And then Lord Brahma says, gee, I think I remember we should think about Mother now. And then she comes forward and saves them. So anyway, he has that relationship, because at the very beginning of this cosmic cycle that's going to spring forth, he has to be given these words. And when he speaks them, it all spills out, usually in sets of, give me a high five, everyone, because it's going to come back at you again and again. At least that's the best way of remembering it, of accounting for the tattvas, is to do it by fives. You could say earth is one of the 5 tattvas, but if you say earth, you're saying hundreds of different kinds of trees, hundreds of different kinds of birds, hundreds of different kinds of gold or metals. So earth is a vast realm. You see, Bur is a vast realm with lots and lots of things in it. But you can slim it all down to the 5 tattvas, the 5 elements. Their combinations make this a world outwardly, which is the question that little boy asked me at satsang last night. What makes this world a world? You see, outwardly it would be the 5 elements, the Maha Pancha Bhutas, but inwardly it's your senses, your inner senses and your inner elements connected to your mind. That's making the world, because you've got 8, 9, 10, 11 billion people thinking about a world. They want a world. They're desiring a world to sport on. Some of them don't just want to sport. Some of them want to suffer. Some of them don't just want to suffer. They want to progress. They want to transcend the world, and they can't do it until they get into the world and see through it. Otherwise, it'll always haunt them. I hear there's a world somewhere, and it's on my tail. The devil's out to get me, you see. I got it behind me, but I didn't meditate it behind me. So that's all on Tat. So Om Bhur Bhuva Svaha Tat. Now what? Savitur Varenyam. The root supreme means to give birth to all living beings. Savitur thus gives birth to all that lives. Power gives birth. This primeval power is Tripura, that threefold mother, with the 4th hidden in the heart. That's my addition. The supreme sovereign goddess, goddess great, with earrings adorned, in sphere of fire residing. They're speaking to me like Yoda now all of a sudden. Varenyan means the best, the adorable. Whosoever knows this gains all pervasiveness. Which is the 4th matra of Om. You see, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and Turiya. That's all pervasiveness there. You become that, Tat. You are that, and you're seeing through all eyes, hearing through all ears, speaking through all lips, eating through all mouths. That's what Mother Kali told Sri Ramakrishna. One of the devotees said, you know Mother Kali so well, just go and ask her. Go meditate on her and ask her if she'll just extend your life for our sake. So he went into meditation, found Mother Kali, asked her that, and she said, shame on you that you should want to eat more, see more, hear more. And so he came back out of that meditation and said, sorry, I'm hers. You see, I mean, isn't that what we just read here? Thou art the refuge near at hand, illuminate me, take possession of me. Well, that's Sri Ramakrishna's secret. He gave his whole being to Mother Kali. He used to say 120%. If you can only even give, 99%, she might not accept you. She's that finicky, you see. So you must work your way towards that 100% self-surrender, Sharnagata. Sharnagata dinarta pari trana prayane sarva sharte hare devi narayani namostute. Right? We sing it all the time. Sarva mangal mangalye shive sarva dishadike sharanyatrayambike gauri narayani namostute. Narayani namostute. Om Om Bhurbaha Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimohi Diyo Yona Prachodayat. Swaha, you can put it into a Gayatri. How many Gayatris are there? There's one to Kali, there's one to Durga, there's one to Saraswati, to Lakshmi, to Uma, to Sita, to Radha, to Savitri, to Tara, to Tulsi, to Sarada, to Ramakrishna. There's a lot of Gayatris out there. You're talking about the main Gayatri here, the ancient, the traditional Gayatri. And I have them all gathered here in a song. It would take me about an hour to sing them. Shall I start? Yes. So the Gayatri is a profound and profoundly deep subject. We read it. Savitur Varenyam means to give birth to all beings. Savitur. And it's power that gives birth. That power is called Shakti. This primeval power is Tripura, the supreme sovereign, goddess great, with earrings adorned, in sphere of fire residing. The fire of intelligence is her land. That fire of yoga, fire of intelligence, that's her secret. People go into fits of love and ecstasy and devotion, but her real secret is wisdom. That's how she creates all of this, how she starts the Trinity, producing all this so people can love and have bliss and have peace and so forth. Is out of that supreme intelligence. Now let's go with the rest of the mantra. Bhargo Devasya Dhimohi. That is, Da in Dhimohi denotes the highest bearing. Bharga signifies the shining one who dwells at the center, who is the imperishable fourth. It is the inmost of all. The syllable Ma denotes greatness, inertness, solidity. Mahi denotes the earth, what is gross, like sea, mountains, islands, and forests. The word Devasya represents the presiding deity. So there's a lot in those three words. Bhargo Devasya Dhimohi. That is, what's in there is the shining one who dwells at the center of all, as the imperishable fourth principle. She's beyond the Tripuri, Sundari. She's that mother seated in your heart. And she is the great. Ma-ha, Mohi, and that also denotes the great five elements that make up the earth, forests, mountains, and islands, of which Manidvipa is one of them, is the highest. Remember, Manidvipa is the jewel island of essence where the devotees of Mother go. Sharananda Mai Kali Moha Kali Manu Mohini Sharananda Mai Kali Moha Kalar Mani Mohini Tumi Apni Ma, and so forth. It goes on, the song. Bengali song about Mother Kali. Sharananda means she who is full of bliss, mother full of bliss. See? You even enchant the mind of Lord Shiva. Manamohini is the name for her, another name for her. She enchants the mind of Shiva. That's why you see those tantric representations of Shiva lying prone and Kali dancing on his chest. And one beautiful song in India goes, "Oh mother, that's shameless that you should mount your consort's breast and dance there." See? And mother responds, "That's not what I'm doing. He's the flower, I'm the fragrance. I'm just coming out of his heart." And when he sees me, he goes into a swoon. That's divine beauty. So Manamohini even enchants the mind of Lord Shiva. And he's got that, sometimes you see he's got that horn in his ear. You ever seen that? That's that he's hearing that intelligence. She's hearing the Gayatri, he's hearing Om all the time. He's especially attuned to her, so he may lose outer consciousness by her beauty, Actually, that's what happens to all of us. We're entranced by nature and we forget ourselves. And that's a big problem. But he doesn't. When he sees her beauty, he goes inward. And he's beholding Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, the nadis, the chakras, all beings inside. And he's thinking, oh boy, I can hardly wait to dissolve them all. With the power of Mother, right? With the power of Mother, I will dissolve them all. I'll bring this nonsense all to a close real soon. Sorry, Lord Brahma, my brother, but you can just project it again later. I have to have my fun now. So we say, better learn how to dissolve things. Om pramedana na sandeha kim karashyani vrittiman, the Avadhuta Gita says. Means when projections arise in the mind, what should the yogi do, having this mind like everyone else? He should let them rise. Then he should dissolve them like bubbles in water. Buddhascha yata jale. Jale is water. I should dissolve all your projections in water. So I said last night at satsang, this is what everyone's failing to do. They're producing so many projections. There's this projection, there's my cars, there's my house, there's my family, there's my money, there's my pastimes, there's this and that. But they're all failing to dissolve them back at the end of the day. Dissolve them means to know that they're all ephemeral, they're all transitory, they're all mutable, they're all illusory, they're all unreal, as compared to Brahman, which is the real. That's the meditation you need to do every day, and that's what she is telling you to do here when she says, Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyan. Then she goes on, Bhargo Devasya Mohi, and finally, Dhyoyo Naha Prachodayat, means to meditate upon the Supreme Self, Sada Shiva. He'll dissolve everything fine for you. He renders us speechless, inspires our thoughts, and she takes us far beyond the sphere of desire for conceptualization to transcendental reality. We have a desire for conceptualization. That's really heaven. That's heaven-born. Our conceptualizations happen in our deeper states of awareness. These are the manifestations thereof. That's why Lord Buddha has called these 5 elements our 5 desires. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether are your desires. They're desires of 11 billion people, or billions and billions of ancestors to hold the heaven realm, or the gods holding their realm. These are sankalpa, is a word we just don't have in English. See, mental projection, that the whole worlds have been based on the vibrations of the mind. I heard the other day that there's another scientist besides James Jeans who earlier on said the world is just a thought in the mind of God. You know, that's a scientist saying that. So James Jeans said it, and I paraphrase him, at the turn of the century, said something like, as we study nature, we see that it looks less and less like a machine and more like a thought. So first we studied it as a, from the outside, as it were, and we see that it's just a producing machine, flowers, trees, herbs, on and on and on. And we don't know of any matrix for that except maybe fertile earth. Add a little water, some sun, poof, you're off and running. But now we studied it, we began to think it looks more like a thought. That where is the origin to everything? It's back into the mind. And the mind is chanting Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, or just Om all the time. See, that's what you hear in your deep sleep state, is just this great word. You're beyond mystical utterances, and you're to the root of it. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. This is where the Word was God. See, there's no difference between it anymore. No origins. That's why Christ didn't want his religion based on origins. He wanted to know that all origins happen back in the Word, but that there is no origin to anything. It's all endless. See, it's all endless. The supreme assuming guise of the Trinity comes to be styled as the goddess Tripuri. She fashions the 3 abodes, her bijam hrim with its terrible power permeates all three of them. So you have words like Om and Hrim and Shrim and Aim and Klim and Svaha, as this Taittiriya is saying again and again. Then you have these power words, these bijams, seeds of power. And when you go into deep samadhi, then pretty soon, you might become a sampragyata. That means seedless. Your first samadhis are sampragyata, seeded. But then you begin to get beyond sampragyata and you begin to go formless, like we saw Sri Ramakrishna doing in his life, his recent manifestation, and then he becomes seedless. That's why he doesn't know where he is when he comes out, back to his senses. He doesn't know his wife, doesn't know his students. He has to even touch water to realize. And when he touches water, what does he think? Apaho. Om Shantihi, Antariksham Shantihi, Prathivi Shantihi, Apaho Shantihi, Vanashpataya Shantihi, and so forth. It's the great peace chant, peace in the waters, peace on earth, peace in the sky, peace in the heavens, peace with flowers, peace with trees, peace with gods, peace with goddesses. So, Apaho is water. So he knows that that's the key word back in the mind of God for water. And he knows how liquidity in the mind of God, the thought liquidity, became the water on earth. See, that flows through channels just like it does inward in the mind of Lord Brahma. Sees the connection, that eternal and ancient connection that's always flowing like that. And all of that based on high conceptualization. So Lord Buddha said, I will build no more homes here. I have now seen my Buddha nature. Buddha means intelligence. I've now seen the primal intelligence. Shakti power, if you want, Shaktiman. And now that I've seen that, the architect of the universe, I will not build any more homes here. I will not build homes of flesh and bone. I will not build homes of energy. I will not build homes of wise conception. See? So she takes us beyond the sphere of desire for conceptualization. You don't want to think anymore. Too much trouble. I think I'll just become thoughtless. You see, not in a callous way. People are not going to go running. It's going to go viral, right? People are going to go running saying, "Oh, Babaji thinks we should all thoughtful. We should all be thoughtless." Slap someone. What a thoughtless act. No, basically it means free of vrittis, free of vibrations. And once you get free of vibrations, if you can do that, which is very difficult nowadays, stay there for a few hours. I was at a printing store yesterday printing this out, one of these, see. And this lady came to help me and I said, you do yoga, don't you? And she goes, yes. How'd you know? So I could just tell by looking at you. And so we started talking and she says, yeah, I like to bathe my chakras in oils. Aromatherapy is my thing. So, working on that external form and everything. So I said, but do you know the teachings of the Gita? We're teaching it next week. And she says, oh, maybe I can come. And she says, but I just started working here at the print shop, you see. So we'll see if she shows up next week. So this desire for conceptualization is strong in people. They want to, they maintain the world by sankalpa. And the ancestors and the gods and so forth are pitching in. You see. They want the humans to worship them. The ancestors want the humans to change places with them. The angels want the humans so that they can carry off their angelic missions. The gods and goddesses want the humans so that they'll worship them. And if you, at some point, if you're a Brahmin priest like Sri Ramakrishna was of the highest type, then you'll see that, as they state in the Yajurveda Upanishad, that And the gods, we worshiped the gods for thousands of years, and we found out that we were just playing into their hands. We found out that mankind is higher than the gods. The gods can't realize the Atman, but we can. So we must come to earth, take a body, and then realize the Atman. Then we'll transcend the gods. That's actually stated in that beautiful song that we sing often. It's a quote by Kamalakanta, the great devotee of Mother Kali. The minute you start singing the Kali Sangeet, of course, it takes you into a very high level. And so Kamalakanta sings that in this song. If I can find the right verse, he sings... No. Pabe Brahmapad Akshaya Shampad Sharanakari Bijaydin Pabe Brahmapad Akshaya Shampad Sharanakari Bijaydin. And the part I'm thinking of, Shristi Stiti Laya Hai Te Hai, Shristi Stiti Laya Hai Te Hai. And further, Sheha Beto Maharadin Shukir Vashana Karo Arkadin, Shukir Vashana Karo Arkadin. Haven't sung it for a long time, but he's saying there that when you finally realize Brahman, you'll be beyond the Shristi, Stiti, and Laya. You'll be beyond the creation, preservation, and destruction. And you'll go beyond the gods that carry on those processes, Shristi, Stiti, and Laya. You'll remember this very important day, as well as the various gods and goddesses that will become under your control, he says. So the human being is always looked at as superior to the other realms of being. So that's why he or she, that soul, can transcend these realms if it opens up the nadis and uses the prana to awaken the Shakti power, and the Shakti power rises to higher levels of your awareness. The last quote here on this chart is this: without taints I am, being, knowing, loving I am, self-shining, devoid of duality I am. To these words conform. When Mother speaks, she doesn't pull any punches or mince words. That's the Devi Saraswati in the Saraswati Rahasya Upanishad. That's one of these Upanishads which you will find on this list in one of the four Vedas. So this has been a quick trip through the Gayatri mantra and its meaning in bits and pieces, a few words at a time. And that in accordance with this sloka, which I will repeat, Bhur, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, these are verily the three celebrated mystical utterances. In addition to these, there is of course a fourth, which the Rishi Mahachamasya proclaimed. That is Brahman, that is the Atman. Other gods are its limbs, and that's precisely why you are beyond the gods in your realization of the whole formless reality as well as God with form. What is called Bhuhu stands for this world, fire, the sacred verses of the Rig Veda, and the air that is breathed in. So you see that idea of breathing in, you should think about those things. When you hold the breath, then it is Bhuvaha. It stands for the intermediate space between heaven and earth, the air, the Samaveda chants, and the air that is breathed out. That's basically the suspended state. Then Swaha stands for heaven, the sun, the sacrificial formula called Yajurveda, and that are in the Yajurveda, and the vital air that sustains life when breath is arrested. That is Maha. What is Maha is called the sun, the moon, Brahman. Om, and food. Verily, through the sun all worlds, through the moon all lights, through Brahman all the Vedas, and through food all animate beings are magnified. So that's why you studied the 5 sacred conjunctions in the very first. See, this is a lesson. It's a chapter, but it's split into lessons. So you can see how these are connected and how they're, in the old way of thinking with these ancient Sanskrit terms, how they thought about connections. I'm saying that we can bring this back, and with our English language and our present life, we can look at everything and transform it immediately back to the age of the rishis, and therefore bring it all forward to this time, and have a good way of dealing with the age-old Maya and that old witch that waddled. Now, it says here, and I think we have 5 minutes so we can broach the subject and pick it up there tomorrow. I have 2 new charts to show you tomorrow. But when we talk about Maha, then we're talking about food, right? Well, here's one of those Kundalini charts that we studied at one of our retreats not too many years ago. It says here, what is Maha is sun, moon, Brahman, Om, and food. Prior to that, it said what was Svaha was, and Bhur Bhuva Soha was the 3 pranas, you see, and which go with in-breath, out-breath, and held-breath. So all beings are magnified through food, so food is an important part then of the Taittiriya Upanishad's message. And here you see it, right here. We'll broach the subject, as I say, and we'll have to complete it tomorrow morning at class. Sri Sharda Devi has said, from pure food one gets pure blood produces pure thoughts lead to pure mind, and pure mind is Brahman. It's just why I was saying earlier why we bless every morsel we put in our mouth. You see, we say the mantra over it. We don't thank God for our food in Vedanta. God doesn't give food. Nature gives food and prana and so forth, coming from our own mind. We should be thanking ourselves for the food. We had a desire for earth, and we had a desire for water. That's for food and drink. Those are our desires. God has no desires. So it's kind of futile to think of thanking God in our tradition. You could be thanking yourself, but it'd be, might as well be thanking the great self, because if you make the connections back inside, it all leads back to God, to Brahman. It's just that as you get closer to Brahman, you don't need food anymore. Man does not live by bread alone. You get the gist then, you see. You begin living by a different power. Even when your body drops in death, you still live. Which is why you need to prove that in meditation. Vivekananda said, now I have no body, gone. Now I have no senses, shut off. Now I have no life force, arrested. Now I have no mind, thoughtless. See? What's left? The shiny intelligence back there, you see. The Shakti power. What am I going to do with that? So all your body and senses are gone, just like they are tonight in deep sleep, and as they will be at the end of your life, at what they call death, you see, when you depart the body. So you need to meditate on that. You need to assume the position of no form. The police tell you, pull you out of the car, assume the position. See, put your hands on the car and they pat you down. See, well, there's some other spiritual police inside of you. See, they're guardians of the gate and they're going to pat you down. So, can you assume the position, please? Yes, I have no body. I have no senses. Slap me and I'll turn the other cheek. So basically this beautiful saying of Sri Sharda Devi points to that. She's of course the mother of our great organization of some 5 million people now. Those are her children. Now if you don't start at the top of the chart but look at the bottom, you have much the same representation as you had here, right? We're running out of time for this, but there's the chakras. Here's another designation of the chakras and how it all starts down here with food. Food taken with an ignorant or brooding mind turns to poison in the body. Food taken in clarity of mind conduces to perfect health. It is the fire of yoga in the form of physical, vital, and mental purification that makes the difference. So you should bring the fire of yoga to bear on all your acts, all that you consume, all that you offer. It's a teaching out of the Bhagavad Gita, because Sri Krishna explains it very well, but this is Lord Vashishta's version of it. Lord Vashishta was one of the 10 mind-born sons of Lord Brahma, so very high on the level of rishis, to be a mind-born son of the god of the Sattvic Mahat, you see. So a lot, even right there in that one quote, but enough to say, and we'll close the class here, that before we meet tomorrow, try going home, if you're not already doing it, and saying a mantra over your food, thinking of the Divine Mother, and render the food pure, and then take it, and then it'll be nectar. So it'll turn to nectar in your bloodstream. Whereas if you forget to do that, it could very easily turn to poison, even a long-acting, slow-acting poison that you don't know about till it comes around full cycle. This is the importance of food in our tradition, and it doesn't stop there. You don't just stop with organic food or healthy food or good food or even purified food. You have to take the energy that comes from it and begin to do practices that refine that energy to ojas and then to tejas. We'll get to that tomorrow. It will be the beginning subject that will warm up to this lesson 5 of the Taittiriya Upanishad. Then we will go on and see if we can encounter that beautiful sloka I've been reading you several times, called the Inward Ascension of the Soul. I have a new chart for that to show you. We'll also examine the 4 Vyahriti's chart, which is also new at that time. So you're welcome, your friends are welcome, and we will see you then, even live streaming if you can make it there, tomorrow at 9:30 in the Pacific Standard Time. And if you're looking from India, my students there, of course you'll have to find that time zone and tune in. Or if you're looking from Hawaii, the Sangha in Hawaii, then you'll have to figure 3 hours earlier. So tune in about 11:30 Hawaii time. So here we will end with a chant. Om Sahana, Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karvavahai, Tejasvi Navaditamastu, Ma Vidvishvahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us, may Brahman sustain us, may Brahman illumine our thinking process, may Brahman free us from all finding of fault and reveal to us the essence of the words of the scriptures. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om